Somebody else. All right, check this out. Listen. I want to go straight back to what he was talking about. Okay, I just want you to re-educate me because I'm a stupid motherfucker. Why is it that you didn't like the album?
No, he didn't say that.
Okay, why is it that you didn't care for every song on the album?
It's like this. It's almost as if I know how Charles feels about religion, and I don't know how the rest of you feel about religion. When I grew up in the church, as a matter of fact, don't hold this against me, I started off gospel rapping when I was a teen. Don't remember that though. Let's not talk about that ever again.
Hey,
However,
it's part of artist development, right? You speak about whatever and you develop as an artist. So if that was part of your artist development, so be it.
Right, that's where I started. So I have an understanding of church and scripture. However, when people take scripture out of context, it ruins the purpose of scripture.
But
this album, to me, it's not that it's ruined. It's not equivalent. It's not a parallel to what scripture is. It is very strong as a stream of pieces of art that make a total, like it's more like art than anything I've probably heard. I can't really even think of something that's more artistic as a hip hop album, as I feel like an individual album's.
I think Undone by The Roots is the closest that comes to it.
I can see that. And what's more
A$AP Rock Daylight. That's all I gotta say.
What's that? What'd you say?
A$AP Rock Daylight.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I don't listen to
A$AP Rock is the best MC who's ever lived.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, as a stream of thought, as a piece of music in its entirety, it's wonderful. Also, let's not forget what he did and why this is such a big deal and why I'm so glad he made it, because he was on top of the game. Everybody, Section 80 was, whether it's mixtape, album, I called it an album because there was nobody else's beats on the shit, and he was signed on. Was he signed on Aftermath at that point in time? Even
no,
he wasn't. No, TDE was their own entity.
It was on iTunes, so it's an album to me.
That's how I feel too.
That was a classic piece of work. Section 80 was a classic piece of work. So people were waiting for Good Kid, Mad City. So Good Kid, Mad City, it doesn't meet the expectations of a Section 80, but you get the concept, you get the story and the narrative, and you're like, oh shit, had some jams on it too, had plenty of jams on it, honestly. So
I personally like Good Kid better, but that's my personal opinion.
I cannot.
I'm iffy. They're really on the same plane in my head, and
that's fair.
We can get into that in a second, though. But when he dropped Control, and everybody who really stupid people, oh, he's coming at so and so. No, he's not. He's saying, hey, let's do better. Step your game up. I know you. I'm coming for you, because this is supposed to be a competition. We're supposed to bring our best work. So everybody's waiting for this next album. Like, oh shit, he got the game in the headlock. What the fuck is he finna do? And what does he do? He does not make singles. He does not make top 40 music. He does not make club music. He doesn't even make for the streets music. He makes what the fuck are we doing music. Everybody, so many people made what the fuck are we doing music at some point in time. They got labeled as conscious. Kweli makes it. Mos Def made it. He kind of down some left field. The Roots made it. And were very hip hop at one point in time. Lupe used to make it, and then he got fed up because nobody appreciated him. And then,
but Tattoo and Youth is one of those projects.
But it's also not it's not as accessible as old Lupe used to be.
This is true.
That's most my gripe with that. But he chose to make this album when he had the most to lose, and that says more about Kendrick Lamar than anything else that I could say about the actual music. When he was at his peak prime position to dominate, he did not cater to what people thought he should do. He did not do what would definitely be more profitable. He could have got just some super fire hip hop ass production closer to what was on Good Kid, Mad City, and everybody would have been super happy as hell. Put a couple of tracks on there that are akin to what's on To Pimp A Butterfly, and everybody would have been going crazy. Instead, he gives the people what the people need because they need it, regardless of what he could have done.
And because he needed it.
And he did it for the people who are from where he was like, I didn't have And he's spoken about this when, they asked him about
the first song.
Right, about He's like, I didn't have anybody telling me what I could do, where I could go, what I was worth. People need to hear this, and they need to know that there's something way bigger that is going on around in your hood. So that's why I have so much respect for the project. Now, all that being said, there's a difference in my eyes between we needed to hear this and I want to play this all the time. The music I love the most is the music that I want to play this all the time.
That's a really fair statement, I feel. And that's almost exactly how I feel about the album, is that, like, I didn't exactly enjoy it. But that doesn't mean I didn't appreciate it for what it was. I don't necessarily enjoy a Jackson Pollock painting, but I still understand why it's important, because it needed to be done. If Jackson Pollock didn't put splatters of paint on a fucking canvas, somebody else would have, because it needed to happen.
Can I say this? Can I say this?
Sure.
And you understood that the two of you did not appreciate this album.
Yeah, that's not what we said.
I misspoke. Not appreciate, did not take this album as closely to heart as I did, simply because I feel as though I related to what's going on as far as being conscious of what's going on with the black community, and feeling that this shit right here connects to, and forgive me for lack of a better term, but the niggas. This is what they need to hear. He related to them in the last album. He has their attention. He ensures that they're not like, oh, this is somebody, he don't know what we're talking about. He has money chains and shit like that. This is someone that they can closely relate to. He speaks their language, which is Ebonics. It's an entirely whole different world out there. This is what they needed to hear. And I appreciate it because having come from that world and knowing that it's better up here being a black man as opposed to a nigga, it's a whole different thing. So this is why I put this motherfucker on repeat daily.
All right. My girlfriend actually told me not to say this during the show, but I'll say it now. She's not here. She went to bed. She expressed her problems, her issues artistically with the album to someone who she worked with who happened to be black. And just stylistically, content-wise, all that stuff. And his response was, "What? It wasn't black enough? It was too black for you?" Like, that was literally his response, right? And I see where you're coming from. That it just appeals to a different audience, a different upbringing, a different experience than myself might have experienced.
And that's
not to invalidate, not in any way invalidate it. It's just that I recognize that my experiences are different than your experiences, and because of that, I just didn't relate to it the same way that you did.
And that's another thing that I pointed it out before, but it bounces off what B. Will was saying. With all these risks that Kendrick took, another one of those risks that he took was alienating part of his audience that he built up from GKMC.
Absolutely.
And I felt that's exactly how I felt, that I was alienated from the project.
Yeah.
That it wasn't for me. Because of my personal experiences in life, whatever they may or may not be, although I understood it artistically, just like I understand a Jackson Pollock painting, right?
That's what I was getting ready to ask you. Even though you couldn't relate, did you understand the message?
I understood it. I just couldn't relate. Therefore, it's not gonna end up in rotation for me. Like, I understand why Roots as a book is important to culture. I'm not gonna read it over and over again.
Yeah.
One thing, I love the direction this conversation is going, but I think that part of the point B. Will is making or trying to make has been missed, though. Am I right in assuming that, B. Will?
You are. I want you to see. I want to see where you're going, and if that's right, I'll just let you take it.
I think take it away from the relatability and everything. I think what I always use as an example, because I can't think of other shit, but I'm gonna use it again. Swimming pools had a great message underneath a very mainstream sound.
Right.
Except for some reason, that song is still played in clubs, and I really don't.
A song that a easily digestible sound. You play it over and over again. When you're just riding, that you're gonna bump it. This is an album that you just throw in every now and then.
Which pisses me off every time it's played in clubs.
Yeah, I know.
People don't listen to
Pisses me off.
God, they don't listen. People don't listen.
It's not a club song. It's anti-club.
Yeah.
But it's the song that you vibe to and you bump it. And GKMC has a lot of those individual songs that you can do that with. And I actually said this when somebody kept asking me what my favorite song on To Pimp A Butterfly is that it floats because I can't pick one without it relating to another one of them, and that makes I like this one, but I like it
because of this.
This song
it's because it's a different mood each time you listen, right?
Exactly, it's a different mood, and the story, like the each, just like kind of what B Will was saying, it's better as a stream all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't stand as well individually, and I agree with that.
There are no singles.
No, exactly. No singles. It's not like King Kunta stands out kind of in a single sense because of the funky upbeat sound.
Kunta is pretty much the only quote unquote single worthy track in my opinion on that album. But
you said which one?
King Kunta. I mean, you can disagree, and that's fine. I just think King Kunta is the best for a single.
But I get what you're saying, and I felt that way when I was like in my first impression of the album. It was like, this is great, going straight through it. And when I listened to it that first time, or those first few times, like I think Joe even knows, like my favorite then from that conversation aren't my favorites now.
Right.
And it's because now I have the whole picture, and I can understand where you're saying that, and just like the Roots album, because that was a perfect analogy for it. Undone, and then You Shoot Your Cousin. Those aren't albums that you're gonna pick up and be like, I'm listening to this one song. Like, some people are gonna do that, but that's a rare thing where you're gonna pick this up and be like, I'm gonna play this one song because that motherfucker was jamming. It's a concept.
But there are albums that have achieved both, right? Where I'm gonna play this one song and I still love this album because of what it is.
There's some albums like that, but these are on two totally different opposite ends of the spectrum, because you got Kendrick's album where you're gonna miss stuff unless you play it all the way through, and then you have stuff like Ray Shremmerd where I can listen to Lit Like Bic and be done with it, and then go on to something else.
Right, exactly. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, B. Will, but I think that's what you were getting at.
It is. It's that sense of music, and we have to think about it in making a different context for it. We all know hip hop started DJs handling the party, spinning records. I'm gonna put this record on this record. All right, somebody come up and talk, do a little rhyme. It's entertaining. You battling. It's like it started as entertainment, and there was definitely a conscious part of hip hop in the early '80s. Pretty much the bulk of the '80s. I mean, Friends, how many of us had them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there was a conscious sector, and then I think really when gangster rap started, gangster rap was not a bad deal because gangster rap was honest and it was from the people. However,
it told us a story that we needed to hear.
Exactly. But the problem was once it became commercialized, everything that got commercialized becomes copy and pasted. And
right, I already heard that story, so why do I want to hear it again?
Exactly. So somebody changes whatever the most commercialized thing is at that point. Like it went from gangster rap to then you had to be wealthy, rich. You had to be rich, really. Then it went from rich to you had to be pleasing ladies in the club. And then you had to be doing dances. And now we're coming up on an era where really hip-hop is kind of out of the hands of the streets to a certain extent. And it's really getting passed back to people that, not just people, like, and that's why a lot of black people have a problem with Macklemore and Iggy. I don't really have so much of a problem with Macklemore because he's not giving us a street narrative. I don't listen to it.
Plus, Ryan Lewis is one hell of a producer.
Yeah, he is a great producer.
Great producer. If you haven't seen, they did an NPR Tiny Desk. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's great.
And one thing, I'm glad you mentioned them because I wanted to say something, and I thought it, but I didn't know if I was really off base when I thought it. But I feel like Kendrick made music that can't be appropriated in the way that hip hop has been.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
you are absolutely right.
Thank you. It can't be stolen because it's his. And like, I don't understand. I don't fuck with Iggy because she did take pretty much Nicki Minaj and every mainstream female rapper and then threw it all together. added some ass to it, added some makeup, and then hey, I got me just a copy paste white artist, and that is what happened. However, if you're going to make it okay, Nicki Minaj, to rap bullshit and just be about image, don't be mad when somebody else does it. If you don't rap bullshit and you stay authentic, Kendrick, J. Cole, then it can't be reproduced. It can't be copied. And so he is solving a part of the problem by making things that are authentic to him. And commercialized rap music is copy and paste. So as long as we, the consumers, are supporting copy and paste music, somebody's going to come along and do it. When the next dude comes up and he's, I don't know, Indian, hey, don't be mad when he's blowing up because, hey, he's doing what we've shown.
Okay.
Ryan, and I actually, I actually really appreciate that sentiment. Exactly what you said, right? It's the Kendrick album is not copy and paste by any means, and I recognize that. But because of whatever life experiences I've had, I just don't relate to it the same way that other people relate to it. I still respect the fact that other people related to it and loved it and really enjoyed it. It's just I didn't. And I feel that that's as equally as a respectable point of view as the other side. I just didn't relate to it the same way you did. We have a differing opinion, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't take it away from the fact that it's still good art, right? Just the same way there's artists. I don't want to keep pulling up Jackson Pollock or let's take the soup can. What was that guy? Why can't I remember his name? The guy that did the Campbell's soup can.
That's not Warhol, is it?
That is Warhol. Thank you,
Okay.
Andy Warhol. Right. A lot of people go, well, why is he painting a picture of a soup can? I don't get it. Well, the point is that it's repetition of culture, right? That you see this repetition of culture over and over and over again, and therefore, by the repetition of culture, by putting in an artistic standpoint, it becomes all art because of your personal experiences of repetition of culture. I get that, but the same way with this particular Kendrick album, the same way I get it's a repetition of culture in a way. I just didn't find it personally relatable.
A repetition of black culture.
Yeah, sure. Well, it doesn't matter what. I don't even want to put that word on it because what's black culture, what's white culture?
Because that's why you're not. That's. I want to say that, but I don't want to be offensive. But
you're not going to be.
That's the reason. No, that's the reason why Matt doesn't get it is because it's black culture.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying because I didn't live those experiences. I'm not part of those experiences. I just do not relate to it the same way someone else would.
All right, AJ been wanting to jump in first.
I want you to get everything you got to say out, but I want to make these two points.
That's it.
Go back to B. Will, what he was saying. All right, B. Will, you were saying that when hip hop had gone to the West Coast, and the West Coast was saying that, it has to be gangster, but then it was commercialized. When gangster rap was commercialized, that is when it was starting to be repeated and became a derogatory thing, right? I think it's wrong. Because if we go to the history of rap, if you do all that shit, you go to the history of back when people were talking about wearing Adidas jumpsuits and gold chains and shades and shit like that, and the same type of material. They were still talking about bitches and hoes and cash and shit like that, but in a different way. They weren't saying bitches and hoes. They were saying you got to have the gold chains and stuff. This is Run DMC era in the 80s, right? So money is always there. Have always been two branches of rap or hip hop, as you want to put it: the conscious rap and the party club turn up. But it wasn't called turn up then. It was called I don't know what the fuck it was called, but there have always been the two branches, right?
And it's also been balanced differently as well.
True, but that was the first point I wanted to make. The second point I want to make, as far as there being conscious rap and there being quality artists and things that cannot be taken, you were talking about how there are some things you can take, like you can make a Iggy, Nicky, and all that other shit, and then somebody will come along that's not even good, but they can just mimic that culture, and then they can become a good artist and blow up, right? Let's just my favorite instance of this is Outkast. Outkast was quality, super duper high quality. They made good fucking high quality music, and you could relate to it, right? Because they talked about like real shit you were going through, real experiences that were being had, but they were not mimicked. But they also did not blow up to the level of a Jay-Z and shit like that, right? But in my opinion, they are better than the shit that he's put out. it's if you look at it as far as like a business, you have to take into not only the politics of rap, but the product in itself and the consumers behind it. If you take those three things to see how it's gone from something that's wholesome, you can take something that, hey, we just want to make sure we get this out here so that people can hear it, and then you take the part of the influence of that the consumers have behind it, that these people want to turn up and these people just want to hear something that they think is that life that they want to live. So you're not about that life. I've never lived that life, but this is what I want to hear in the music. You take those two things and you mix it with the politics of rap, the people that are actually in pinpoint locations that actually do the production, that actually get this name out there. If you take those three things in, you'll have the entirety of what hip hop is right now, right? And I say all of this to say that going back to B Will's point and Matt's point about how you didn't relate to something that is To Pimp a Butterfly, you can't relate to this bit of music because you haven't had this experience, but you can relate to Good Kid, Mad City. You haven't had those experiences, but you can relate to that, right?
But he didn't say that he can relate to those.
Oh, okay, you're right.
No, that he encompassed my point exactly. I can't relate to Good Kid, Mad City in a direct perspective either, but this is a point I was going to bring up a little bit later. Was like I've cried to Tupac songs even though I've never fucking lived that life, right? Like I still feel what fucking Pac is saying because of, for some reason, the way that he encompassed it. You know, like I haven't lived that. You know, I haven't been through what, you know, Tupac's experiences were, but for some reason, the way that it was presented, I was still able to relate to it. You know, like I was still able to, you know, when he spoke, I was still able to go, oh my gosh, this is, like I could almost step out of my skin and go into Tupac's skin, partly because of the way that he encompassed these ideals. And that was my problem. Was from an outsider's perspective, I went, oh yeah. I get what he's doing. I get what he's trying for, right? And then I went back into my own skin and go, I just don't relate. And that was my problem, right? I couldn't merge these two ideals whereas with like artists like Pac, even though that wasn't my personal experiences, the way that they were related and the way that they were encompassed, even though I didn't live those concepts, I could still feel and cry and get pain and suffering and whatever emotions that I felt during listening to those songs, I could still get them from those songs. I just didn't get that from the new Kendrick.
You directly?
I'm sorry, what?
So I'm going to ask you a question directly. You
sure.
said you felt what Pac was saying, and it invoked some kind of emotion in you, right?
I literally cried to Pac's.
I get it. I get it. Now you're saying that's what Pac's music did to you, right? Now this is just a simple yes or no. This is black or white, no gray area.
Sure.
Did you not feel? Did you not have that same kind of emotion when you listened to Good Kid, Mad City?
Yeah, I did with Good Kid, Mad City, and that's my problem with the new record is I didn't have it with this one, and I don't know why.
No. Okay, now, in saying that and having said that, yes, are you not saying that you had high expectations coming from Good Kid, Mad City to this album, expecting the same shit? And
bingo, that's exactly what I'm saying, and that's my issue, is not even in the same sonic sense. It just didn't encapsulate the same feeling that I had with Good Kid.
Yeah. Now, one thing I understand what you're saying, and with the topic matter that he had, I'm not surprised at all.
And back to what I was saying earlier, it seemed like he was trying too hard to make a classic, so therefore he didn't make it.
Now that part, I don't, because like here's the flip side of that. You don't relate to it, but you feel like he was trying to force a point, but you understand that we have more of an attachment to it, but you felt like he was forcing it. I don't get the forcing part of it.
See, you're still judging some shit you can't relate
because
to.
if anything,
that's a really fair statement. In all honesty, philosophically speaking, I don't know why I feel that way. I just know that I do.
Well, can I tell you why?
By all means, I might disagree with why you tell me why, but by all means, tell me why I feel that way.
Well, I want to say something before he does. Just a suggestion.
Because maybe you can tell me why I feel that way, and I'll agree.
Just a suggestion that I have. GKMC definitely set a standard, or not a standard, but set an expectation that it may take people time to get past. I think that you should listen to this album like you listen to Tetsuo and Youth, because I realize that
I love Tetsuo and Youth.
Yeah, but I feel like something that he only did subtly on GKMC with the characters and personas and the
right, this idea that it's a concept album but not quite a concept album.
No, not that, not specifically. Well, actually, I'm getting more detailed than that. I'm not going with like a vague description. You know how if you listen to Lupe's Tetsuo and Youth, there are characters and there are situations that you have to decipher.
Well, the only reason I like Tetsuo and Youth is because there's banjo, but that's because I'm white. But you know, love that banjo.
Fuck that fucking banjo, man. But to like me and one of the guys that was on the show before and talked about this album, we're gonna do an article talking about the individual characters that Kendrick created in here in that album and what they mean. Because I feel like you'll relate more to that than you would the base message of the album.
To be fair,
say what?
To be fair, when Good Kid came out, I didn't quite get it either, and then 6 months down the road, it just kind of clicked.
So that might be the case.
That's a fucking testament. That's
because like you know.
And so my opinion a year from now might change. And that's fine, you know. As a rational human being, my opinions are allowed to change, right? So my opinion a year from now might change. And when I listened to Good Kid the first time, I thought, here's just another street record. And then I went and listened to it a year later and went, I get it. I get what he's going for.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny though is that you're talking about how that emotion affected you on Good Kid, Mad City. I think Good Kid, Mad City is a great record. I wasn't affected by it the way that I was by To Pimp a Butterfly, because I got more emotion out of To Pimp a Butterfly than I did Good Kid, Mad City. And I don't know if it's because I'm aware of the racial climate right now, and my nieces are, you know, they're going to grow up in the society, and just thinking about that, like it moved me more with this record than Good Kid, Mad City ever did.
It could be because I was expecting another Good Kid, Mad City.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the first time I listened to Pimp a Butterfly was sitting in the car, right? So when you're sitting in the car, you want to turn up, right? You know, like that. Not always, but a lot of times when you're in the car, you wanna drive down the highway and you want to turn up. You know, like, and this wasn't that record, so. You know, I appreciate what you're saying, the fact that my opinion could change, and I represent that my opinion could very well change.
I don't expect it to change on the
It could.
No, wait.
I'm not expecting it to either, but I recognize that it could.
Let me add on the extra words I was saying. I don't expect it to change in a relatability sense, but I do expect or hope that it changes on the whole forced idea sense. That's really the only thing that I see as kind of an opportunity to change your perspective.
I don't know if it's going to, though. I still feel at the bottom of my heart that he was trying too hard to make a classic, and therefore, since he was trying too hard to make a classic, since he was trying very, very hard to present his ideals, that it just came off almost. I hate to use the word preachy, but I just don't have a better word in the English dictionary to use.
It's correct, but no, that's the thing. Even he had to address the preachy statement because it's such an introspective album. Like, how can it be seen as preachy?
Well, I'll jump in.
Is there a line within the record that kind of within the record, not Twitter statements, not articles? Is there a line within the record that addresses the fact that he's coming off a little bit preachy? Because you said it yourself that you know he's coming off a little bit preachy.
No, I was saying that he had to address that statement before in one of the recent interviews about it sounding preachy. But if you listen to every one of the songs, none of them are you need to do this. It's not even we need to do this.
It's more of a self-reflection.
Yeah,
and the whole I remember you was conflicted. I mean, that's like that whole moment leading up to that poem and the interview with Pac at the end or whatever. That's him writing. He wrote that poem about himself.
Yeah, like that's, and even Black of the Berry, a shit ton of flack happened from that, and then people had to realize, me being one of them, where was his perspective even pointing towards in that project? Because he wasn't saying, you're being a hypocrite. His words, I'm the biggest hypocrite of 2015. And it expounds upon that. Every track is like that. Loving you is complicated. He was talking about himself in kind of like of a third person view, because he's talking about depression and shit. And even King Kunta, if you really break it down.
And depression is something we can probably all relate with. Every single person sitting at this table can probably relate with depression, yeah?
Like, I shared the most emotion when I heard the second part of You.
Yeah, the second part of You fucked me up.
Oh, that is my
shit.
Sadness levels on the same level as Book of Soul.
Stop mentioning that fucking song.
So you're saying this is one of those records I should listen with my headphones on, sitting in my bedroom, as opposed to trying to listen to it in the car?
That may be the difference, because I listened to
it.
Like
mindset?
You fucking laughed at me, but my first time listening to Pimp A Butterfly, I had
in the tub with the candles, right? In the tub with the candles.
I'm in the emergency room of a hospital with my phone here and just the little ass speaker just playing into my ear, and I'm just trying to figure this shit out. But when I listened to it and actively, I was sitting there with headphones and I digested the project that way. And it does make a big difference. So maybe that is the key.
And I'm willing to accept that maybe just my mindset at the times, not time, because I've listened to it a couple times, but the times that I listened to the record, my mindset just might not have been in the proper place.
Yeah. And one thing I think, it's created a great conversation. Like this one right here. I hope that it's created a lot of conversations elsewhere. But, I can't think of a better way to say this, but with me in this album, I don't need you to like the album, but I need you to understand it. I really want you to understand the album.
And I think I do, unless I'm just understanding it wrong.
Yeah, well, hold on. AJ got a lot to
say. AJ's had some of the most valid points of the entire night. So
I try to make sure it's not as controversial as it is in my head, because the way I present things, I try to keep it 100, man. This is the comparison I'm making, and I understand, and I just don't want you to get offended.
You won't offend me.
Okay.
You call me all sorts of really ridiculous names right now,
and you
wouldn't offend me. You won't, but you could.
Let me get this point out. You don't get it, right? You don't get it right now, because right now it just doesn't make sense to you, because why? Why the fuck are you trying to do this? Why did he try so hard, right? But let me give you another example of another situation socially that we can all comprehend that wasn't understood in the beginning, but is now socially accepted. Like, why did those motherfuckers in the past not get this? Segregation. Integration was a thing that when we first started, why do they want so badly to be a part of this society? Why do you want to be accepted? Why are you trying so hard to just be in our world? Why are you doing this? But now we're looking back like, was that really a concept? Was that really something that we thought was a good way to go to keep people excluded? And I say this to try and correlate to you that, yeah, you're not going to get it in the beginning because, like I said, you haven't had these experiences. You haven't been shit upon the way that naturally in America today it's just it's another side of the railroad tracks. You haven't had these experiences, so you can't relate to it. So when it comes to this situation, this being this album that I fucking kid you not, I take deeply, and I listen to it like the intro says every nigga is a star, and I'm singing it when I'm walking to fucking work. When I'm walking to work, every nigga is a star. I shit you not, man. There's no way you could get that. So when I try and correlate it, hand in hand with like segregation, when niggas aren't treated equal, when we're 3/5 of a fucking man nowadays, right? When when you try and compare segregation to you just simply not getting this album right now, look, come and holler at me in a year. Maybe you'll be like, you know what, AJ, I fucks with you.
Right. And I see where you're coming from, in the sense that I didn't grow up in segregation. To me, segregation seems like a fucking stupid idea. It doesn't make any sense to me in that respect. I still see where the analogy comes from. But I think as far as music goes, a better analogy would be the Fugees' The Score, right? When that record came out, when Fugees' The Score came out, everybody fucking shitted on that record. They thought it was fucking garbage. Take a look at the original Rolling Stone review for Fugees' The Score. It's like a 2 out of 5 stars. They re-reviewed the record 10 years later and gave it a 4.5 out of 5, right? Like, that's something that's more relatable to me, because at the time Fugees' The Score came out, I didn't quite get it. I didn't understand why it was great. Dude, I bump Fugees' The Score at least once a month. You know, like, I think that record's fucking great. You know, like, but when it came out, like, I would have shrugged my shoulders at it. I would have went, not for me, But, you know, I don't quite get the segregation thing, just because I understand where you're coming from with it. And somebody who's like 20 years older than me might be able to go, oh, yeah. I see exactly what you're saying.
I present it as an idea.
Right, and it's a great idea.
Or the project should be presented as an idea.
Yep, and I from an abstract sense, I understand exactly what you're saying, right? From a relatable sense, I've always thought segregation was a stupid idea. Most people in my generation think segregation is a stupid idea. But to kind of just keep it in the realm of music, I think Fugees' The Score is a good example of a record that got really negative reviews when it came out and really positive reviews 10 years later.
Well, hold up. Let me jump in on that one, because there was a couple things y'all covered that I kind of wanted to semi-relate to kind of paint the picture more. I mean, Charles, I know you kind of were touching on it a little bit, but between the major difference, I want you to think of this. Everybody here is pretty thoroughly digested Good Kid, Mad City, right?
Yes.
You can say so.
Now, everybody has had enough time to go through this album at least 2 or 3 times, right?
Yeah.
I'd say 2 or 3 spins is about what I have.
Okay. I want you to tell me, count on left hand. I know everybody, Matt doesn't have video. On your left hand, how many tracks on Good Kid, Mad City, let's just say just production, where you felt good to outstanding?
Hold on. Let me actually do this.
I'm going to do it in my head.
I'm not gonna visualize it out loud, but let me actually think in my head. How many good to outstanding?
Imagine the Jeopardy music is playing right now.
Are you talking about just production or in time?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Production and lyrical content? Can we...
No, I think
let's go back to that, because I'm coming back to lyrical content too.
All right, production-wise. Okay, just production.
Yeah, you're right. It's about 3 or 4.
Okay.
I would say 5 to 6.
I got 4.
Yeah.
Well, let's go over some common ones. Everybody's got Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, right?
Of course.
Yes, that was the last one that I had from my phone.
Everybody's got Money Trees. Right?
Backseat Street.
Money Trees. That was my first.
Backseat Freestyle. Ugh, I can't talk.
Backseat. How many y'all had Backseat Freestyle?
No.
I did not.
I did.
What else some common ones? What else we got?
Think About Me.
Yes, Think About Me. I'm with you on that one. All day.
Sing About Me and Mad City.
Yeah.
Round out my last one.
Actually, I would even go as far as Good Kid, but...
I think I had all those too. And what was the one? Art of Peer Pressure.
Art of Peer Pressure. Yeah.
Before the beat,
that wasn't the one that I had, but I can put that as 5. I had the one he did with Dr. Dre, Smoking Trees, and that was on the deluxe. I know. I'm sorry, man. But that one.
I'm actually gonna have to look up the track list just because I'm not that good with
come on, we
track
said
names.
really digested. What's up?
all right, okay. Now,
Just because I digested, Poetic Justice is another one that did it for me.
I did not like Poetic Justice.
I loved Poetic Justice is one of my favorite tracks.
We're talking about just production.
Wait, Joe. What was that?
Just production. I love that very minimalistic backbeat.
I'm screenshotting that when we run this shit back.
just as a creative person who makes beats and makes songs, Poetic Justice was a lazy ass song. It was the sample.
I think it was,
and maybe that's just because I'm going on the lyrical content.
Like, I'll let you get on this.
Because, and Brian, I feel that the reason I'm saying Poetic Justice might not because of the beat, but because there's been many points in the last several years since that record came out where I've seen things in my life where when I've seen those specific things, and I can't think of examples, where I've gone, if a flower bloomed in a dark room, would you trust it? Right? Like, literally because of that line. If a flower bloomed in a dark room, would you trust it?
Fair
is
enough.
The reason that I love Poetic Justice.
Now we're gonna get back to lyrics later. We're gonna get back to lyrics.
Sure, and I recognize that my point's invalid because of the reason I love that song is because of the lyrics.
Right. Like I said, we'll come back to lyrics. So now, do the same thing for To Pimp a Butterfly. Production, not lyrical content, not story or place in the overall narrative. How many tracks?
King Kunta. That's it. One.
Mama. Mama.
Rich said mama.
Yeah. Mama here. Mama here.
How many? Let's count your numbers first, and then we'll go to common ones.
Well, you know what? Let me say something. So my answer is 2.
Mm-hmm.
But none of them match GKMC's like none of them is a Money Trees.
Right.
Money Trees. Why didn't we mention that one?
We did.
How did Money Trees get lost in that?
We said Money Trees. That was a comment. Everybody had Money Trees.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so now, if y'all are like me, then you got 1, maybe 2. And there's something to be said as far, and again, I'm with you. I did not grow up in the atmosphere that Kendrick grew up in. But let's just say, if I wanted to go that route, I could have gone that route. I didn't go that route. I didn't live it. But however, I can appreciate, and like we said, because he could have done anything at now sitting on top of the game with everybody waiting on pins and needles, he chose to give something to the people, for the betterment of the people. Now, however, we just counted how many tracks we love. We were on 4, maybe 5, 4 in a possible on GKMC. We're on 1 in a possible.
Well, I'm gonna be the contrary.
Go ahead.
As far as listen, when it comes to like beats and shit like that, I appreciate the samples and where it comes from, so I'm gonna go with 5 on the new one.
I'm gonna say something, and it's gonna feel more personal because we're in the same room. But I feel like you're reaching because of your attachment to the album. None of those production. I appreciate the funk.
Yes!
I appreciate the funk.
Yeah, well, I grew up with riding in the fucking car with my mama and listening to the phone.
So like if you get out of the album, because the album is great, we do not debate that. I don't even like
think of it as like standalone production. Would you listen to this beat with no lyrics on it?
Right, that's the thing. Because if like I have to look at it like this, Janelle Monáe's album, which I feel is the best album, was the best album period up until now.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the second track that she had with Prince and that funky sound, that production was fucking amazing. And then when I put it up against some of the production on To Pimp a Butterfly, it's not as good. Like, well, I mean, not that song isn't as good. The songs on To Pimp a Butterfly don't amaze me as much as that one did.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. And I feel like you're so attached to the people leading up.
Yeah, so just count everything. It is, because count everything that I say is fucking invalid, because you're right. I think you're right. I feel as though the roots of the song and what he was trying to do as far as the sound, as it hits your ear, is not some shit that you'll hear nowadays, but you get it from, it's from back in the day. It's from the roots of the darkness, and that's why I fucking like it. Because I grew up listening,
That's why we connect. Yeah, I'm chiming in. I'm agreeing with you.
That's why I like it, because I grew up with it. When my mom would drive us around, dog, she had fucking the double Dutch bus coming down, like shit like that. I listened to the funk growing up. With my grandma and them, they were the 70s. Like, this is why I feel it.
But don't hate me for this, but I'm asking you a question. Think about the songs then, like the music that you heard, the funk, the melodies. like you would hear a bass line and immediately you
They
know
didn't
what the
have
fuck
it like
it is.
that though. Yes, I get what you're saying. Okay,
T-Pain,
it doesn't blow you up. Okay,
it
yes,
doesn't
I
have
get what you're
What's-
saying.
That's
However,
that's
it's
just
a
reality.
sample. You can't get the full experience, but it is a sample from that experience, which is why it resonates with
But
you.
the sample can create the full experience. That's the point of the sample, is it brings you back to that point.
Right,
Listen, you can have French fries from McDonald's, but does it? If somebody brings it home to you, is it like sitting in the McDonald's and going to the play place and shit like that? It's not the same.
Well, they
No,
killing you.
but when I hear the sample in the song, it's just as hot as the McDonald's French fries. It's not 10 minutes old. It's the same. Like, there have been many a sample that have almost been better than the original song.
Yes.
Because not,
I feel like if you counter that in any way, you're just being an extremist purist. Because
I guess that's how I am.
I feel you, homie. Where 9 times out of 10, I feel that way with films, and I'm not gonna change like my views on that. Like, you're probably not gonna change your views with music. With films, I feel like some of these remakes that people doing, like people did Old Boy. I'm like, you go fuck yourself, Spike Lee, with that bullshit you putting out in there or whatever. I don't feel like they can do those movies better, but sometimes they fucking can, and I have to accept that shit. And then with music, with samples, I feel like Far Side, what we heard today. That's a dope ass track.
Shut the fuck. That beat is not better than the original. Get the fuck out of here.
I think you was gonna get mad when I said that.
No, dog.
That Far Side beat is so dope. But that.
all right. Can I add a quick point when you're done?
Dope. Because like Joe, the song I'm talking about, "Come As You Are" with Audio Push.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Dog, he got offended when he heard that fucking song. Like, he was pissed, and that shit is so hot, dog.
I wanted to hate that Audio Push album so much, but I gave it like a 4 out of 5 when I reviewed it.
So in saying all this shit, let's just go back to what B-Roll was saying. You can't take anything that I fucking say this evening as authority.
And that's
saying.
overall power. Think about how strong that is for you. Like, we're all here like, yeah, I kind of see the point, the tracks, but because you connected to it personally, the actual story personally, the music personally, because that's what your mom's was playing in the car and in the house, you have now connected on the level past everybody else. My dad was in the house playing Anita Baker, Temptations. It's like, that's the shit. I'm on the soul shit and the R&B before it transformed into 90s R&B. That's my base. That's like my home base. Your home base was the funk and the freeform jazz. So you can connect. Now, you have connected more than anybody else in this circle has connected, and therefore, that's your favorite album. I mean, that's just what music does.
That's a really fair statement. Like, I completely agree with Brian on this. Like, all right, let's take a look at like Kanye, right? Like, he took so many old soul records, sped them up, and created a whole new concept of quote unquote chipmunk soul, right? How many Kanye records that you hear the sample and you go, oh, that's specifically Kanye? Like, in my opinion, if you hear the concept, the sample, and you think of an artist that isn't the original artist and the artist that sampled it before the artist, that's where it becomes kind of tricky, you know, like, it becomes a new thing.
It most definitely does. And people, I mean, it's a conglomerate of ideas. It's like, I'm going to take this idea. I was just going through this. I had one of my homeboys. He came down, Cuts, Charles. You remember Cuts. And came down, worked on the album. on the album and the mixtape, actually. And what we ended up doing was we sat over here with another dude, Breezo. He made most of the tracks that are going to be on the mixtape, the tracks that you heard on the mixtape. And we're sitting here talking about what Kanye does and does not do. Because Kanye really doesn't produce too much anymore. So we went through the credits for Cruel Summer. And
the new Diddy.
And Watch the Throne. It's like somebody will make a fire-ass beat, right? And then he'll jump on the end and he'll take the main melody and do it in a new patch, a new instrument, and then add in the same pattern.
Remember Don't Like, when Chief Keef put it out and Young Chop produced it, and then they did the remix, and Kanye took the melody, the original melody, and all he did was add some drums on it and say that he produced it.
Right. That, like, if you check credits, That's what Kanye does now. Like, Cruel Summer came and I was like, oh man, Kanye's back. Man, that's what I'm talking about. Where it's been. I checked these credits like, motherfucker.
No, I knew. Look. Hey, on that note, when he signed Travis Scott, I knew that was going to be the fucking issue when Cruel Summer was coming out. Because if you go back to good music, or go back to Kanye before he signed Travis Scott and listen to what Travis Scott did sound-wise, like all these extra like fucking choirs and shit that you hear and like the extra stuff, Travis Scott was doing that. And now Kanye's doing that apparently.
Yeah.
Because when did he sign Travis Scott? Like 2010, 2011-ish, somewhere in that area. Yeah. Because before that was 808s, and 808s was a Cudi album.
Yeah.
Kind of, but I still liked 808.
I mean, 808 is one of my favorite albums of all time.
I know Joe also really liked. You liked 808 as well, yeah?
It's one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah, I love 808s and Heartbreak.
It's a Kid Cudi sound.
Yeah, definitely.
But could that just be kind of tossed up to it's a Chi-Town sound?
No.
Wait, let me tie it back in though. So
wait, pause.
Go back to his.
Wait, bitch, shit, host. Rich, you were saying something.
I got something to say too afterwards.
You got a bone to pick?
Oh yeah, I got something to say, but I'm gonna let I think B Will was going next.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So let me tie this back in. So Kanye took samples, like that's how he got on. It was soul samples. It was a melody that you could relate to, and because soul music has such a wider reach, because soul music, I mean, of course I wasn't alive in the 60s and 70s, and I don't know for sure, but when I watch that Temptations movie and that Five Heartbeats movie, they're performing for white people in public arenas. It's not like freeform jazz. It was an artist. It was an art scene soundtrack. It was a black community soundtrack, but it was not a commercial giant soundtrack. But soul music was America's sound. Like commercials now, artists now who were big in the 60s and 70s, they are making their living still touring because that music connected. It grabbed everybody who heard it.
Well, we'll take a look at Mark Ronson's Uptown Funk, right? Like, I know that's not hip-hop, but Mark Ronson's Uptown Funk embodies the sound of an earlier age and brings it back and makes it really popular again, right? Like, anything that is old, there's that old saying, right? Anything that is old can become new again.
Yeah.
And Ronson showed this with Uptown Funk. You know, it's classic fucking soul and funk and jazz. Like it's a combination of all these concepts, and it's a great record, and I love it. And most people really like that record because of the concepts and sounds it encompassed.
Right. And so Kanye used soul. Soul connects. I mean, that was a tactic. That's the music he likes. Soul connects to everybody. So when he's making beats, Shaka Khan Through the Wire, that shit was unbelievable. And you know what? That was a lazy ass beat. It was just Through the Wire sped up with a bass line. Now, however, Through the Wire sped up with a bass line. However, we hadn't heard shit like this. It's like this can't be life on the Dynasty album.
And when you're a white kid who only grew up in a house of Aerosmith and rock and roll, you don't know that shit.
I was a white kid that grew up in only a house of country music.
See, and that's why like we ate that shit up.
Right, because that
first time I heard a hip hop track, I pretty much splooged my prepubescent pants, you know, like you can make music like this.
That's Matt and the porn references tonight.
Yeah, that's very graphic.
Sure, graphic, but you all right? The fireworks lit off in my head, you know, like the first time I heard hip hop music coming from a country household, you know, a household that listened to George Strait and Garth Brooks and Reeve McEntire. The first time I heard, you know, hip hop music, it kind of sparked this music can do this, you know, like even though other people understood that, even though to other people this was old hat, this was old news, to me as a 10-year-old child, this was new, you know, like this was a new sound.
Yeah.
Now, that's just my point for AJ, because you were saying, oh, I feel this. I was like that, but everybody didn't have that connection with that, where Kendrick based his album, which is freeform jazz, blues. Like, think about that. Loving you is complicated. It's like they're trying to find a bait or root somewhere in the music to catch it, but it's like it's not there. Don't even try to catch the music. Catch the words. It's that song is for the words. The music is simply a backdrop. You're not even supposed to. You're not gonna bob your head. It's like you see what I'm saying. It's like it lacks. To Pimp a Butterfly lacks a universal appeal because it's based on a genre of music that was not universally accepted.
Brian, may I add something to your point?
Sure.
Hey, in 1 second. I don't mean to cut you off, but after
no worries.
After you make your point, I have to make this point because it got to be said. But go first.
No. You
no, go ahead, Rich.
You're Mr. Coalition yourself. Yeah, you go first.
Okay. I know there was a comment made earlier. I just would like to say this to AJ. I'm there with you 100%. You were not the only one that really enjoyed this album because me personally, hey, I'm a big fan of Bilal. I have said this several times. It's a certain artist that Kendrick put on that album. I'm a fan of all their work. All the jazz references. Just like you say, this is an album that's not universal. Well, whenever Spike Lee makes a movie, that's not a universal movie either, because it's not a movie for everybody to see. It's for a particular audience. And that was the main reason why I had a connection with the album. Plus, D'Angelo's last album. I love that album. And a lot of people say these albums are similar because it's as if they were trying to get the same type of sound with some stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's just my 2 cents. I wanted to just put that out there because I know said, no, AJ, you ain't the only one. I love this album. So I had to say that.
See, I'm glad I got some fun.
I lost my train of thought. I don't remember what I was going to say, so therefore it's probably not important unless I remember it again. So.
No.
But that's I think that's what the word I look for, and the word that keeps coming up in my head is accessibility. That's the word that comes up when I'm thinking about this album. Like
definitely not that.
The usefulness and
Brian, can I say something to the fact that there's two concepts in music: minimalism and maximalism, right? Where you go to the extreme minimalist, where you accentuate points using as few concepts as you can, whether it's in production, whether it's in lyricism, but you try to get your point across with as few concepts as you can.
Right.
And then on the opposite side, there's maximalism, like Kanye. Kanye is a perfect example of maximalism. There's lots of sounds going on. There's lots of concepts going on, to the point where it's kind of the other side of the spectrum. You could be saying the exact same point, but in essence using more words or more production value versus like Kanye would be maximalist, whereas like Tribe Called Quest would be minimalist. They could be saying the exact same kind of thing. Mind you, they don't in their music, but just as an example, they could be saying the exact same message, but with a different production and lyricism style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that is a difference between Kendrick and other more accessible people. Like Matt, you were saying that Tupac reached you. Tupac was so fucking accessible, and it was his gift. Honestly, it was if he wanted to make everybody kill people, it would have been the Purge.
I know this is a little personal, but in reality, Tupac was one of those things that stopped me from committing violence against myself. Hearing things like "So Many Tears" and knowing that somebody else felt the exact same way that I did were exactly the things that stopped me from committing violence against myself and kept me going. Hearing Tupac talk about how he saw his friends die in the street and how he was really depressed and how life was getting him down. Tracks like "So Many Tears" kept me going because I was feeling so many tears.
What's crazy? The way you relate to "So Many Tears" is how I relate to you on To Pimp a Butterfly.
Okay.
And it's also interesting that you keep talking about how you relate to Tupac when we're talking about this album, you know, with having the whole
Because
point
I wanted
of him
this album
talking
to
to
be a
Tupac.
pop record. It wasn't.
Right, exactly. That's kind of what I was trying to get at, like saying it without saying, like.
I said it, so.
Yeah, and that
crazy.
the whole thing with it's like Kendrick is in on this album. It's layers. It's like I went back and listened, and I have to figure out each song and verse. All right, he's saying Lucy, but who is Lucy in this song?
Oh, hold on. Who'd you take Lucy as?
What's the yam?
Lucy, I thought Lucy was.
That's what I've been trying to figure out for like since the record came out. What's the yams?
The yams is the powers that be.
Right, but what's the powers that be? What's the yams?
Oh yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Like yams to me, what's the yams is what my mama cooks on Thanksgiving dinner. That's the
Hold on,
yams.
hey, now be real. What was Lucy to you?
Lucy to me was like the devil on one that's on one shoulder. It was Lucy. I always translate Lucy short for Lucifer. So that's the devil as far as it relates to the music. Like I was waiting on you to get signed so you could do this bullshit. Go ahead and get this money. I got something. You're gonna do what I want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Lucy was for me. But at the same time, and we keep coming back to this. It is a complete album. It is a piece of artwork. Everybody can interpret it differently. Now, while that is something that is rarely achieved, that also makes it less accessible. That makes it less universal, and that is something that is working against this album. And
because you can't peddle singles from it.
no, I'm not even singles. Like,
I see where Brian's coming from.
Like, singles be damned. I hate the fucking radio.
No, you know what I know. Just because you hate it don't mean the rest of the world don't love the fucking radio.
Yeah, I know.
So we're not gonna hear King Kunta on the radio then? They're gonna be.
Yes, you know what? That probably will be the next fucking single.
Because look, right now the way the radio sees it.
I didn't even read rules.
I don't know if Joel sees it this way. Joel will have the most insight on this particular thing. It's true. To Pimp a Butterfly is the hottest topic in hip hop right now. Point blank. Period. Everything that Kendrick talks about, these interviews, it is the hottest thing out there. King Kunta is the probably most radio-friendly shit you gonna get from this album.
So I like All Right though, man.
I would agree with that.
All Right.
All right is.
King Kunta is it sounds like it's the most radio-ready song from the album outside of I.
It almost sounds like pre-production they were planning on that, or post-production they were planning on that being a single.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think single was a fucking thought through this whole
If it was, like, you could tell with Poetic Justice that was clearly a single. Like, it was like, damn, we need something for the whole thing.
It's not that bad.
The thing with Poetic Justice,
That's my least favorite song.
is I started liking it even less with every play.
Yep.
Me too.
That's why I fucking hate singles.
And see, I'm the exact opposite. I started liking it more with every
But
place.
you know what? Just like I called what he was attached to, and what we got down to the root of what he was attached to and why. Every time you mention this song, you're attached to that one statement. If that one statement wasn't even in the song, would you even like it?
Yes, because there's a verse, there's a scheme in that song that I thought was absolutely genius, and I couldn't quote it verbatim without looking it up. But it's the one where he's talking about writing. Here, talking, I'll look it up. But
all right. Well,
there's not only is that particular line relevant to me, when that verse comes on, I get shivers down my spine every time.
Now I want to go back to this because we talked about the beats, and I'm just painting the picture of why this album is less accessible from a production standpoint. For everybody except for AJ and to a certain extent Rich, production on Good Kid, Mad City was more accessible. You had more fire-ass beats, and like Charles said, even though you had a beat like I love Mama, I'm with you, Rich. I love Mortal Man, like the horns and the strings, man. It's just damn, it's so beautiful, man. But I would have, because I'm an old natural music, natural sound loving person. Mortal Man is as good a beat as can be found. However, Money Trees was so outstandingly ridiculously.
Right. That motherfucker start as soon as that song starts.
Man, it's like there is not a money tree on this album. Not in the song sense, just the production. Like what wowed you? That's just
shouts to DJ Dahi.
Killed that shit, dog.
I posted it in the sidebar in our chat. But other than the if a flower bloomed in a dark room, would you trust it? This more than anything, what I posted in the chat, and somebody can quote it if they'd like. This is the line that makes me fall in love with poetic justice.
Uh-oh.
Or the scheme, you know. This scheme is fucking genius.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that particular scheme.
This scheme. My favorite part is living my life in the margin, and that metaphor was proof, right? Like margin being, you know, what's on the side, and when you're talking about proofs, right? You write the proof in the margin.
Yeah.
You know, like that to me was like, oh shit. You know, like the first time I heard that, I caught it, and I was like, oh shit. You know, like, and that's to me why that particular scheme is why I really, really love poetic justice. Now, mind you, more times in my life I've related to there's been times I've seen things or read things that I've quoted in my mind if a flower bloomed in a dark room, would you trust it? Right? But that's what drew me in originally. That particular piece of scheme was what made me fall in love with poetic justice first. It was only after that I fell in love with the entire song.
All right, now let's take that love. We just did that with the beats. I want to do something real quick with the lyrics, as far whether it was a verse, whether it was metaphors, similes in the verse, whether it was wordplay in that particular verse. How many songs? Let's do two. Let's do number 1, Section 80.
Ooh!
How many verses on that bitch had you like, God damn? Oh, like I heard Section 80. Cuts put me on Section 80. I was like, what? How did I not hear this before? I'm gonna say,
if you think about it, the Kendrick Lamar EP, Overly Dedicated, and Section 80 all were like that.
They were. I was just about to say, as I look at the track listing for Overly Dedicated, the first verse for Ignorance is Bliss. Like, that shit blew me away.
That's the song that made me a Kendrick fan.
For real.
The Hard Black Boy Fly.
Oh, man. It's like the heart. What was it? I think it was
Heart Part 2.
The Heart Part 2 is what made me a fan of Kendrick.
Yeah, that did it too.
That's what got me. That shit just... And then how it ended, I'm just like, God damn.
See, I'm on a whole, y'all are on like, I don't know, man. I think I'm on a whole different level because I'm like on this positive black shit, dog. Black.
No, he's getting to it.
I'm getting to it. You see what I'm doing, Charles?
He's talking about what appeals in each one of the particular projects. Go ahead with the
Carry on.
Okay, so like I'm thinking HOC. I dropped jewels like my nuts dropped out of my briefs. I said, man, stop this shit. Hold up. Jesus, it's like he had quotables. I'm gonna punchlines, quotables, wordplay, ridiculous. Think about the first verse on.
And he even got the best out of Schoolboy Q on Spiteful Chant.
Yes,
I remember when I came out.
And even like,
oh my goodness.
So I'm taking that. I'm taking that part of Kendrick. Now,
he got the best out of Schoolboy on there, but he got the best out of Ab Soul on the outro too.
Mm-hmm.
He really did. You know what? That's why I was so fucking disappointed when I heard Ab Soul album, because I heard that outro. I was like, shit, I'm finna check this shit out. I was like, man, what the fuck, man? Get this shit.
Wait. Side note: did you listen to Control System?
I have. Let's say this. I skimmed. I did not listen in depth because I didn't think it warranted a second listen.
No, you gotta listen to Control System again.
All right, send me that, please, Charles.
Okay.
All right. Well, okay. So I'm going from this idea that the impressiveness of being an MC, the skill aspect, the wow you, the make you laugh with the line, that is something that if you are going to tackle a point, there is not a lot of room for the entertainment aspect of rhyming. while you're tackling a point, while you are carrying a theme, while you are telling a narrative that is not a laughable, it's a serious ass narrative. It's a touchy subject, it's heavy material, and there is not as much room for the skill that he showed on the previous three.
Because
projects.
when you attack real subjects, you have to take them O's head on.
Well,
Right.
I mean, you can. A lot of the most serious art on the planet has been, or not serious art, but a lot of the most in, I don't even want to say important, but a lot of art has taken very serious issues. Like, let's take Charlie Hebdo, right? Look at old Charlie Hebdo comics. They take very serious issues and make them very, very, very
But that's a very
humorous.
That's a very different situation, though. I think he's
I think it applies to hip hop too. I think it applies to all artistic mediums.
But like, can you list, like, you could probably list on one hand how many artists can mesh both of those in an appealing way. Appealing being the key.
Happen.
Say what?
That doesn't mean it's not possible or that it can't happen. It just means that we
Looking
haven't.
at a track record of history and something that we have that's pivotal.
Sure, but if you take a look at almost political comics are probably the best example, right? Of an artistic medium.
Political comics, they don't have the appeal. That's why they only
right,
appeal.
But they have an appeal. They have an appeal to their audience where they make serious points while being humorous at the same time.
But you're just proving the point. This has an appeal to a certain audience.
It's not.
Fair enough.
Well, and to kind of really go along with where I'm going with this. I was gonna say let's count the WoW verses from the old projects to the new one, but I think are we in agreement that there are less WoW verses than there were in the old works?
Yeah.
On this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
I'd agree.
This one was more. It was
more direct.
Yeah, it's more direct. Now, here's the other topic. Like I told you guys, and we will never speak of this after this time. I might have done something similar to gospel rapping. Moving on. As much as I appreciate the point of, hey, let me tell you what will help your life out aspect of gospel rapping, the reason why you said Kendrick had to address this is like it comes off as preachy, and he had to say, I'm talking to me. I thought it was so interesting on at the end, he was like, no, we ain't got time for that. He was like, how many people out here, how many homies we lost? But you see what he has to do. If you are going to tell people from a certain mindset that their mindset needs to change, you can't completely come at their throat. You can't be combative to change.
Lupe Fiasco, are you listening?
And
I hope you're listening, homie.
And that is what Kendrick he can't come out here and be like, everybody, if you got a gun, just go throw that shit away because we killing each other too much. If you don't like it, don't listen to my shit no more. Fuck y'all. He could never do that. Now, would that help if with his influence, if he could directly say, everybody, we're killing each other and it's stupid. Everybody was so mad when he didn't say, yeah, Black Lives Matter is the movement. I'm on board with all this shit. He was like, man, we got a lot of stuff we need to work on too. And he caused so much flack. I can't believe him. He a sellout. No, he's telling the truth. He's seen the worst and seen how his people are part of the problem, not as far as how white people relate to us, as far as how we keep ourselves down in certain ways. And that's what he wanted to address. He addressed it on the end of I. Now, the difference is there is a preachy meter. Like, I think everybody's got this thing when you're streaming video or songs or whatever. You can set it to where you get the highest quality video, but there's a possibility you're going to have to buffer because the clearest picture, it costs you some stability. If you don't want to skip anything, you put it way down at the other end of the spectrum. Just give me the shitty ass video. I just don't want the shit to skip. There is a entertainment's on one end of that meter, of that x-axis, and then real life application is on the other end. And what he did was he was probably, if it's -10 is entertainment and +10 is real life, I'd say he went from like a +3 with GKMC to like a +8. And that's the difference.
B Will, I'm gonna need you to quit bullshit.
That is
You're
one
gonna
of
have
the
to be on
best
every show from now on.
Like,
I'm gonna need
that's
you to quit dropping
great.
knowledge and shit like this sporadically.
Man, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to be on every show.
That was beautiful because I feel like just because of that I understand the record more than I did. Like that was a great analogy.
Hey, you need to bring that ass out here.
But see, that's the problem. That's why it's less accessible because it's really not entertainment. This music is not made for entertainment. This was made as a shovel to start digging ourselves out of a fucking.
Fucking right. And that's why
That's why I feel like it's okay if I don't want to listen to this album every day. If I put on this CD, I'm gonna play Mortal Man, Mama. I'm gonna play Complexion. I love the message in Complexion. I love it. I'm light skinned and I love it. Ain't no wrong with us. We hold it down. I'm black too. But it's like so many songs that I like on an individual basis. It's probably like 4 or 5 of them. But the entire album, no. And that's okay that it's not entertainment for the sake of entertainment. It's not as entertaining as Section 80 was. That's okay. If I don't play it every day, it's still a valuable album. It's a more valuable album. However, I'm not going to go to the place that entire narrative takes me on a day-to-day basis. Like Matt said, when you're in the car, you need the energy to make it through the day. And I'm not going to get that from this dick ain't free. That's not going to do it for me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm cool with that. I appreciate Kendrick because what he did was he made it okay. He did what Jay-Z did not do, which was when you're on top of the mountain and you're going to acknowledge, and like I told us, me and Charles said this on Twitter the other day, my beef with Jay, and the reason I have not been a Jay-Z fan of any of his music for a while is because the Black Album, Jay-Z retired and said, I'm the best, y'all ain't got nothing for me, I'm out. And nobody really argued with him. Everybody was like, I mean, shit, yeah, you did it, okay. I mean, you got it. He came back and wasted our fucking time. He came back. What was I don't remember the name of this song. It was
So would you say he misused his influence?
He definitely, and he continues to do so. He continues to do so by peddling wares to the people that are not of more benefit to the people than what other people are already doing. He's not doing anything Spotify can do. He's like, look, me and my friends need more money, so give me $20 a month. Man, what the fuck? All you do is talk about how I ain't shit because I don't know the brand names you're talking about. Stop talking about brand names. I don't know the brand names. Damn, I hate him. Anyway.
I hate that, man.
Okay.
Jay got up when he had the most influence imaginable. I'm the greatest rapper and I'm getting out of here. And nobody's going to fight you on that point. He came back. He said, critics say you should spit it. I said you should buy it. Nigga, that's good business.
Talked about that the other day.
It's like, so he made his case right. He came back, the first album back, what did he say? I hear y'all saying I should be more lyrical. Fuck that. Buy my shit. You should buy it. I want you to buy it because I got to be rich. I mean, moment of clarity. I can't help the poor from one of them. So I got rich and gave back to me. That's the win-win. Now, I was okay with that on Moment of Clarity because he said, you know what? I came here for the money. I'm going to give back to us. Cool. You got the money. You got the acclaim. You got the wealth. You got the woman. You got everything. Do something for us. Nah. Give me $20 a month. Fuck Jay-Z. Where's the Nas record when you need it? Well, fuck Jay-Z.
Hey.
Quote of the day, fuck Jay-Z, where a Nas record be when you need it.
That's the difference between Kendrick Lamar and really the generation now in general. They are not coming from a place where you have to be a part of hood culture. It's like Kendrick was, and he doesn't even want to be anymore. He's like, look, this is not helping us. Let's do something different. Let's take a step out of this. Cole was like, yeah, I saw it enough and was around it, but that's not the direction I went. You have Drake was definitely not a part of that culture. He's just like, I just want to get bitches and money. But you know what? Cool, because
or play basketball in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
oh my God. Get the grassy reference, but
just saying.
But that's all he wants to do. And he's being authentic about it. My father, I didn't hear you, AJ. What you said?
Drake says that he started from the bottom and now he's here. So he's about that life.
Yeah, he stretched on that one. I hated that fucking song. But and that's why
I actually like that song partly because we started from the bottom. Now we're here, right? It's not now I'm here.
But you know what? He was also on that whole no new friends bullshit and all that. All these motherfuckers.
Sure, but at least he recognizes his crew brought him to the top. You know, like at least he recognizes his friends and family and those around him are the ones that help him get to where he's at now.
And
so that's something I can at least appreciate.
He does thank them a lot.
He helped him get where he is.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Man, we was getting acting checks, paying his mama stuff off. I wish I would have had that opportunity.
You ain't lying.
Yeah. But that is the difference between Jay's culture and really Kanye, and that's why I can't fuck with Kanye anymore. Because you heard the story on the Here's to the Rock. What's the name of that song? Last Call.
Mm-hmm.
You heard the story. It's like, damn.
Can we still get that deal with what's the other label? I can't remember.
What are you talking about?
Can we still get that deal with Rockefeller?
Oh yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I thought it was the other label at first. I got them switched up.
So it's like he comes from
That's College Dropout.
Yeah, that was on College Dropout.
Yeah.
That's on his outro. When he talks for like 12 minutes.
Yeah. And so he's telling the story about how much he wasn't appreciated. He forced Dame Dash's hand. It's like they didn't even want to put his shit out. They were like, look, man, just give us beats. Yeah, your album will come out in 2020. Just stick around.
And he even said, like,
Jesus walks in his building.
We'll just let him produce and let Cam rap on everything.
Yeah. Hey, I spit a couple verses, but they ain't pay attention to me, so I said that last line. Mayonnaise colored Benz by Push Miracle.
Yeah. Mayonnaise colored Benz. I push Miracle Whips.
And
then he goes on about how he bought furniture from IKEA.
Right. It's like these. I don't know if it's the Jay-Z influence on Kanye, because that could be a part of it, as much as Kanye looked up to Jay. But there was a sense of, I've got mine, now I've got to continue to get mine and compound mine. If I'm not in the boat with the struggling people and the upcoming people, I can't relate. And
Go ahead.
With that.
No,
come on, stand for him, Charles. Stand for him.
On another note, how come the after show longer than the real show?
Hey, because we talking about that real shit, homie.
All right. You don't talk about real shit on the show? Is that what you said?
I really feel like this needs to be a separate show because AJ has sat in a living room with me and listened to me talk about the Kanye shit.
Goddamn right.
For fucking hours.
Fucking right.
Because, number one, you are not going to put him in that greedy ass Jay-Z zone.
Hold on. First of all, I said the same thing as you, B. Will. Carry on.
He was woke. He was woke after I was done with him.
So basically,
it's fuck you too. No, I really think.
Before you get started, Charles, I just heard a mighty roll of thunder down here on the plains, and if I get cut off, you'll know that my power went out. All right, continue.
No, I want to save this for a separate show. I really feel like it deserves this.
That's a fucking discussion.
Okay. But that's how I feel about those artists. That's why I appreciate Kendrick and Cole. It's like here they are in their prime, pretty much, and they new albums to come out. And what does Cole do? He comes back to the people. He does not stretch himself out. I mean, he did let Nas down. He told you the story how he felt like he sold out a little bit on the first album. He's not gonna do that again. And I appreciate it for Born Sinner not reaching as far as the singles, because the perfect mix of single but still real and accessible was probably what was it? Got Me Up All Night.
Power Trip.
That was a great single for him. Yeah. That was believable for him. It wasn't that bunk ass workout song that he made, and he didn't even like the workout song. And he talked about that later. When it was time for this one, he came back to the people. Maybe it was because
check your weed.
And you know what? The thing is, like, he really got back to himself, and by way of doing that, he got back to the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he is the people. Really, J. Cole is the people. He did want to stunt. It's like he had something to prove at one point, but then once he did it, he was like, you know what? Cool, I'm done. I'm back to me. I'm back to
He's probably the more widely relatable person in our.
You know what? And you know the perfect line to describe that is like when he's talking about on January 28th, where he's talking about how he still drinks Hennessy, but when Hove's around, we switch up to that Douce.
Yeah.
Like, he's still normal, like he's still a cool ass dude, but when Hove's around, he kind of has to stun a little bit because it's Hove.
Right. Yeah, and that just that thing right there, that he's gonna rent out his old house for families who need it. He's gonna go sign your album where you're at. That's an authenticity and a down to earth nature that Kanye West does not have
At all.
or if he had it.
Because he's on a greater fucking mission, but we don't get to that shit.
Yeah.
Before I forget my point, it kind of reminds me, taking it out of the realm of hip hop. We can see this throughout music history, right? There are kind of fringe artists that then create an entire movement beyond them. Take a look at like Pavement. I'm sure you haven't heard of Pavement, but without Pavement, Slanted, and Enchanted, we probably wouldn't have had a Green Day's Dookie. You know, like the same lyrical concepts that were talked in Pavement's Slanted and Enchanted, that weren't very accessible to a mainstream audience, that were artistic, then came out in Green Day's Dookie as a very kind of digestible format. Another example would be like Operation Ivy. I don't know if any of you listened to Operation Ivy, but without Operation Ivy, we wouldn't have shit like Sublime. You know, like, because the guys who were in Sublime listened to Operation Ivy, you know, this kind of ska punk style, and then took this ska punk, what they were saying in Operation Ivy, and made it more digestible, we then got Sublime. You know, like, who's to say that Kendrick's album, what we just got from Kendrick's new album, won't in 10 years, some cat will be listening to that shit and go, oh shit, you know, and then take those same concepts and make them into a more digestible format.
I actually, my point about the album when we first did that was that this is gonna change the landscape of hip hop.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. Just as Operation Ivy and just as Pavement did, artists that you've quote unquote never probably heard of created these artists that you have heard of, such as Green Day, such as such as Sublime. Those artists wouldn't have been as successful as they were if they weren't inspired by these very artistic, abstract works.
Right, absolutely. And that's its worth past the entertainment value. What it lacks in entertainment, it doubles and triples in really how important it's going to be going forward.
No, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Word. So I think that's a good note for us to end it on like that.
Yeah.
You see how long this went. I'm glad we stopped the other video to do this.
See, if you would have been in the original show, be Will.
No, if he would have been in the original show, we'd be 4 hours deep into that bad boy.
Well, the after show has been longer than, I think it's probably longer than the than 24. So.
Probably so, but hey, I greatly appreciate it. This was a great conversation to have.
So next episode's 26, right?
Might as well be shit.
Basically, man. But
you just gonna be on Kanye, Charles.
What'd you say?
You gonna hit me to Kanye's movement, his vision. Since
we're gonna do a whole other show on that.
Okay. All right.
Wait, I don't care if it's just me, AJ, and you talking. We ain't gotta have everybody, but I feel very strongly, and I have points.
Well, at the beginning of the year, Charles said that he's going to do a show every week, even if it's just him talking.
Oh, shit.
You say that.
That's funny.
You did say that.
That would be perfect for me to talk to myself about Kanye West. I feel like there's a story in that.
Yeah.
What do you feel, Charles?
Are you going to do two different voices, like Charles and then Charles responding to himself?
Yeah, make it happen. But, Rich, you can go ahead and shut it down, man.
Yeah, my final word. In Jesus, I don't trust. Good night.
I love you, Rich.
Amen.
That's the one-liner. Oh, man. I'm first.